So this is kind of interesting. These two men have been on the podcast several times. Micah first appeared on the podcast back in June of 2017, episode 256, and Scott appeared in September of 2017 on episode 286. So since then, I've become good friends with both of these guys. I've been on Scott's podcast a couple of times, which is called Love Local. Look that up. And I've been on. It's the 306 podcast with Love Local is what I've been on. And Micah, who runs Refuge Youth Network, which is an organization that helps youth in the area in central Pennsylvania, where I live, really focusing on disconnected teens. So I didn't realize, especially in our area of central Pennsylvania, which I don't know where you're from anywhere in the country, but there's disconnected youth everywhere. And disconnected youth are the kids that don't go to school. Their parents aren't home to make them go to school, and they kind of wander the streets aimlessly, and they don't have direction. And Refuge helps to put them back on track. Scott and his mission, of course, his main business is Visual Element Media, but his new mission, besides being a videographer and helping people build social media platforms and things like that online, is to help the local community. That is what Love Local is all about. So they both serve the community quite well. We're all motivated guys. We're all friends. We decided to get together on this episode and sit down and hopefully be able to motivate others while we're talking about motivation, just what drives us, what keeps us moving forward, because I think really when it comes day to day, waking up in the morning and focusing yourself on those things, super important, but sometimes the discipline of getting yourself into that motivated state every day, the discipline's hard to come by, especially on days when you're not feeling it. So hopefully this episode can be that for you when you listen to it. Thank you to the sponsors. Thank you to Harlequin Pepper Yoga, 320 Allegheny Street in Hollidaysburg. So Aaron teaches Harlequin Pepper Yoga, Vinyasa Yoga. Right now, if you go into the store at 320 Allegheny Street, or you find her in the App Store or on Google Play, and you say the words Rob Z, you'll get 1 month absolutely free. You heard me right, you sweet little pumpkin. 1 month free toward a 6-month or a year membership at Harlequin Pepper Yoga. Shout out to Sports Evolution. Alan, my boy, he runs Sports Evolution. That's where I take Gracie Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. He's helped me to heal my lower back, which I pulled last year while pulling weeds out of my yard. Yeah, that's a sign you're getting old. But luckily, Alan fixed me up. He also teaches CrossFit, performance training, strength and conditioning specialist, certified personal trainer, purple belt in Gracie Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and he's certified CrossFit levels 1 and 2. He will kick your body into shape at Sports Evolution, sportsevolution.net, and Facebook and Instagram at Leading Athletes. Let's say that we start the show now. I don't know why I'm talking like that.
This is Rob Z Radio.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Today, recorded on Monday morning. Whenever you're listening, that's awesome. Thank you for listening. But this is some Monday morning motivation with Micah Marshall.
Hey.
And with Scott Cunningham. So Mike is with Refuge Youth Network. Scott is with Love Local and Digital Element Media. I got it right that time, right? Compared to
Visual.
last time.
Visual.
I always screw it up. How do I do that?
I don't know. I do it too. So I mean, it's I didn't pick the best name, but I mean, it works.
I think it's my brain. I didn't get the best brain. Maybe it's what it is.
But when you said it, it sounded right to me too. I was like, yes, you got it.
He said it right. Good job, dude. So today I woke up and I knew you guys were coming in, and I was trying to think of something to talk about. And whenever I have you on, which you can go back through in the show notes, I'll have the episode they've been on before. But when you guys have been on before, it always circles around. Well, Scott, you and I usually circle around social media in some way, shape, or form.
Right.
Mm-hmm. And Mike, it always circles around kids, youth, motivation,
culture,
faith, spirituality,
Absolutely.
Culture. And I thought today, I haven't done one really on, morning routines, how to get yourself out of a funk. Because I know Monday morning can be the biggest funk you have yourself set in. And
Definitely.
Luckily today I woke up actually kind of on point. I felt like I was ready to go, but I think it's because I knew you guys were coming in. I was like geared up to do something. But whoever wants to start here, maybe Micah, because you wake up at like 4:30 in the morning and you hit the gym right away.
Yes.
How do you get yourself motivated early? Because it's really some days good, some days nearly impossible.
Yeah. Well, like we were discussing earlier, this is a new routine for me. It was one of these things where I turned 31 in November, and I was just kind of evaluating where I was at with just my private life, not even, just where I was with leading myself, and being someone who just leads well within myself. And I was like, man, I got to change something. Because when you do something for so long, it becomes such a routine that it almost becomes mundane. And you're like, all right, I need to spice this up. And so I started going to the gym a little bit earlier. I used to go around like that 7:30, 8 o'clock. Then I'd roll into the gym like a little bit late. I used to be someone who stayed up till like 2 o'clock in the morning, would do the whole thing. And but something had to shift this year. And so I was like, you know what? I'm going to get up at 4:30. I'm going to be at the gym by 5 when they open. And I'm going to be at the office by 7:30. And man, has it changed so much. Now the first few weeks was absolutely terrible.
Yeah,
I'm not gonna lie, it was rough.
What time do you go to bed at night?
Struggle was I will go to bed between around that 9:45 and 10:45. That's my buffer.
Okay.
Never required a lot of sleep, even as a kid. I was that kid that like parents were like really like concerned about because I didn't sleep much, and I was that kid where I was like only 5-6 hours, boom, I'm up ready to go all day. And so
see, I was the opposite.
Yeah.
My parents were worried about me because I slept too much. I'd be sleeping like 12, 14 hours at a time.
I didn't sleep either.
Yeah.
Like, I was just ready to go.
Yeah,
but now I'm exhausted all the time. I'm gonna blame it on kids.
Yeah, it's
sorry boys. But
yeah, no, so I have a routine, man. Monday through Thursday, I get up at 4:30, 4:45. I'm in the gym by 5. Fridays are my day off. I'll sleep till about 6:30, 7 o'clock, and then head in a little bit later. But the motivation was just to change something. That was my biggest motivation, is something needed to change.
Is that my phone ringing?
I think that is your phone.
We're doing a Facebook Live. What are you calling me on my phone for?
And someone's dinging.
Unbelievable.
It's all right, though.
Well, I need to fix it now. We got to fix this.
All right, let's fix it real quick.
While that's happening.
Yes, while that's happening.
Yeah.
So
why 4th? Was it just so that you could be one of the first people to the gym?
Well, it was one of those things where it was like, if I can get it done earlier, because I love it, and it's my time to process my day, get things in order. By the time I leave the gym, I know exactly what needs to happen through the day, the guys that work with me, what we need to do, what needs to get accomplished, where I'm going throughout the week. I'm just able to evaluate so many things within that. And so I'm like, okay, this is great. Let's do this. But I started going because a buddy of mine, Seth Melhorn, who's director of The Door, he couldn't get there later, and we wanted to work out together. And we wanted it to be something where we held each other accountable for that. And so we were like, 5 a.m., let's just start when they open and let's get it done. And that was pretty much how that started for me.
Because I used to go, when I was heavy into the gym before I had a kid,
Yeah.
I was going like an hour and a half a day, which I realize now was a too much time,
Yeah.
number one. But I had a good routine where I'd wake up in the morning, I'd get up around, I don't know, I think like 8 or 9, get in there by 10 o'clock. But whenever I was in radio and I was waking up at 4:30
Yeah.
in the morning, like there's something about that changes the rest of your day.
It does.
Around noon I was wiped out and I needed to take a nap.
Yeah.
But beyond that, like I would get up early, and if I didn't have to go to work right away, I don't know what my life would have been like. But the fact that I had to get up and get right to work, like I was automatically ready to roll. I felt like, all right, this is it. I'm awake. I have to do something with myself. Or I'm going to fall back to sleep. And luckily, I had something that, like, being on the air, that I had to be on. I had to be ready to move, and I had to also be in a good mood.
Yeah.
To get people also in a good mood.
Absolutely.
And I think that's one of the biggest things. If you can wake up and find a reason why you need to be awake and alert, and if you can find a way to like serve people in some sort of way, like whatever that task is for the day, if you do that right away, it's going to help for sure.
Yeah.
What about you, Scott, as far as waking up in the morning?
So, like I said, I used to be a morning person. Like I loved morning. And one of the things, back whenever I lived in Pittsburgh, and I was just starting out my company, I had a Friday morning networking group. We met at 7 a.m. in Mount Lebanon, and so I lived in the North Hills, so I was up at 5:30 to get down there in time, and I loved it. Like, I loved being, like, driving down 79, the sun's coming up. Like, it was the greatest thing in the world. And then whenever we moved back to Ebensburg, I mean, now, and then with kids, I mean, it's gotten a little different, and I kind of hate mornings now. but I do notice that if I schedule something early, like coming to do a podcast, or other meetings, if you guys know, I schedule meetings early,
Yeah.
and that's to get me out of bed. So
Yeah.
like I completely agree. Like if you have something to wake up for, that has a tremendous effect on the rest of your day. But I mean, yeah, I don't go to the gym. I should, but I don't.
That might help with the sleeping part, because I know
Yeah.
when I had some sort of insomnia, working out would just
Oh yeah.
put
Yeah.
you asleep. Like later on that night, you'll notice that you're more tired than you usually were.
Yeah, and like if I lay on the couch, I'll be ready to fall asleep at like 10:30.
Yeah.
Go up to bed, yeah. But I will say this: thanks to Rob, we started using like these essential oils and stuff in our room.
Oh yeah.
The last 2 weeks, I've slept better than I've ever slept before.
Did you really?
Honest to God.
Which ones are you using?
Lavender.
Yeah, the lavender.
And there's a I guess like a combined one. It's just called Sleep that we
Okay.
found TJ Maxx like $5, and
Yeah.
we're like, yeah, this isn't gonna work. We poured it in, and now it's like, get that started.
whether it's placebo effect or not, I don't know, but they seem to work with everybody I've talked to.
Yeah.
Nene uses them. We use them every night. Her brother, who has insomnia, uses them as well, and says it helps him. They smell amazing.
Oh yeah.
Like I keep them in the studio, like the re-energize and revigorate kind of
Yep,
ones.
I use those in my office now too.
And I don't know if they actually work, but I feel like I have more energy, so I'm going to keep using them.
Yeah.
That's kind of what it comes down to.
Yeah, Bethany has. She puts some in, and it always smells good. But like, she doesn't have a hard time sleeping. Like Bethany, when she lays down, boom, she's out cold.
Done.
It still does take me a couple minutes to fall asleep. It's not one of these things where I'm so exhausted where I shut my eyes and boom, I'm done. Because you still process, and you process throughout like, okay, the day coming. But it's one of those things where it does change the game. Those essential oils have really done. I mean, it does help you just kind of relax. And you smell that, and it just gets in you, and you're just like, you know what? This is nice.
It makes you feel and look like a dirty hippie, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that's what essential oils kind
Totally,
of are. It's
yep.
like, oh, who is this guy?
Oh, yeah.
His room smells like some strange oils, like he walked in nature's habitat.
Oh yeah, I call
But then once
them
you-
voodoo
yeah.
oils.
So in the morning, like when you first wake up, do you guys? I still do on occasion wake up miserable. I don't know what it is about the way I sleep or how I sleep. Maybe I'll sleep like twisted or something. I think I used to sleep with my body like contorted. So I'd wake up in pain. I'd wake up with like a headache. I'd wake up just grumpy. And I have sinus issues. So like my sinus pressure in the morning, my nose would be swollen, my eyes would be swollen. And it's still like that sometimes. I've managed some ways to get past that. But do you guys wake up? Like, what's your usual wake up feeling? Like you spring out of bed, like boom, I'm ready to roll. Or do you wake up like, whoa?
I still wake up like that.
Do you still?
Like,
Okay.
My alarm will go off, and you do have that brief second where you're like, do I need to do this? Do I need to get up? Can I go back to sleep? And you do have that like brief moment of compromise. Like you're like, oh, I could just nod. But literally, it's like, get up. Like, get yourself together. Go do this. Like, be disciplined. You do it all the time. Just get up and go. But I drag myself like to get out of the bed. It's still, I'm not one of those people popping up and all like happy and joyful. Like, no, it's still work. It's still like I got to get up and I got to get it. Now I feel better after like that 6:45 drive home back from the gym. I feel great. Like I'm like windows down, music blare. Like I'm ready to roll.
Yeah.
But getting up, that initial feeling is horrible.
Yeah, I've never been able to get past it.
No, me
my wife
either.
can wake up and be like ready to roll right away. I'm like, how are you built like that? I wish I was built like that. Is that?
Yeah, I mean, some mornings it's like my mind is ready to go. My body is not. Like, and I don't know if it's just getting old. That's what I'm attributing it to. But it's like my body's just like, just lay here, don't move. But I'm like, no, like I want to get all this stuff done today, and so. That's kind of where I am with it.
Right.
And I'll just leave it at that.
Do you hit the snooze? Because I do. I don't want to, but I'll hit it like once. I hit it twice this morning.
I hit it twice this morning.
It felt so good. I was like, ooh, yeah.
But then I get frustrated because I don't fall back asleep.
Yeah.
Oh, I do.
I just lay there waiting for it to go off again so I can hit it
Well,
again.
and that's why I don't hit.
It's like...
That's why. Well, I use one of those noisemakers of like the rain.
Oh yeah, the sound
so I use a sound machine, and I have that going, and so. But then your alarm goes off with the sound maker going on, and like you try to hit the snooze, and then you're like, well, I know the sound machine's on, so I'm listening to this, and I'm still not falling back asleep.
Those sound machines. So if you walk upstairs in our house at night, it sounds like a 747. It's like you're in the middle of an airplane. It's so loud because Max has one, we have one. It's hilarious. And then Nene has a fan on, so there's like much noise. I'm the opposite. I don't even notice the sounds of the sound machine anymore. It's like they're not even there, which is a good thing, I guess, because then I'm like in a
So when you
constant
when you
dream state.
travel and go somewhere, do you have to put, like, I have it on my phone.
Oh, yeah.
Because, like, if I'm in a hotel where I'm staying over or anything, like, if it's silence, I can't fall asleep.
Yeah.
I'm like, I need some type of noise. Are you the same way?
Yeah.
Is that how it goes?
It's a problem, actually.
That is a problem.
It becomes an issue.
Stupid noisemakers, man. Like, putting us to sleep, I should say.
And I've talked to people who, like, scoff at the idea of the sound machine. I used to. Before I had a kid, I was like, sound machine? I don't need to use that. Why would I? I'm fine. But then we got one. And I realized, wow. This is a game changer for sleeping. It's craziness. Do you guys with kids?
We did for a long time. Our oldest, he wouldn't sleep well, and so we did like the 7-hour music thing, and that helped. We don't anymore, but now we fall asleep to the sound of an air conditioner or a fan.
Yeah,
so that's kind of our room noise.
There's always some sort of constant noise going on.
I can fall asleep without anything. It's not like when we travel, like I have to plug in a hairdryer just to go all night to fall asleep. My wife, we've read stories of people that are like, I got so used to that room noise, like I had to find anything. But now that we have smartphones, I mean, just
all
plug
right
it in.
there.
Yeah.
Now, let me ask you both a question, and I'll answer this after you do. When you grew up, did you grow up where there was a place with a lot of noise, like when you were going to sleep? Was it quiet? Like, do you remember what it was like?
It was too quiet, I think.
Yeah.
I lived in Sinking Valley, which was like the country. So there was
yeah.
zero, except for like crickets and stuff like that. There was no noise, and I always had trouble because I was like always scared that I was going to hear something scary.
Yeah, I grew up out in the country near farms, and there was no noise.
See, I'm originally from Pittsburgh, grew up in Mount Lebanon, which we've talked about before. So that's Scott and I, like our tie, Mount Lebo. But we grew up on a road that was relatively busy. And then when we moved to Bethel Park, we like the train. The actual train was right there in Bethel Park, and we lived right next to it. So it was constant noise all the time. And like even my siblings, like all of us, we have to have some type of noise to get that good sleep, that deep sleep.
Yeah.
Because if it's too quiet, I cannot sleep at all. It weirds me out. I just can't do it.
Well, I don't know where I heard this, if I read it or if I watched it on a podcast or something. I forget. But they were saying like, we're not supposed to sleep in silence because like back in the day whenever you like didn't have strong houses and there was a lot of outside noise coming in, you'd have the sound of crickets, the sound of just the outside, of wind, of whatever it was to help you fall asleep. Like the natural sound of like nature would help you fall asleep. So when we lay there in silence, like our body's not built for that, to sleep in that environment. We're not supposed to have complete silence because that's not natural to have complete silence.
Yeah.
And that makes a lot of sense to me. It's like even if you're just laying there, like think if you're like sleeping in a tent, there's so many nighttime noises that would never be silent.
Yeah.
Like laying in a room with no noise at all. That's just weird.
That is.
Because I kind of lay there and just wait for the next noise.
Yep.
Like, what's going to be next? Like, what was that noise?
It's like being a little kid sleeping at a house, like your friend's house for your first time, and you're like, what is that? And they're dead asleep, and you're like wide awake. You're like, is that like it's the furnace in the basement that's gonna eat me, or is it like
I've done that a million times.
Yeah, the pipes and all that, and you're scared out of your mind.
Yeah, I've done that so many times.
Oh man.
So like waking up in the morning, the thing I've adopted this from Aubrey Marcus, who's the guy who runs On It, is like to drink a big glass of water, like lukewarm, like room temp water, and then you put lemon and sea salt in it. It's supposed to like rehydrate your body. The water chases the salt. I'm not sure the lemon does. I guess get your metabolism going.
Yeah.
But I've been doing that. Well, I've been doing the water for a couple of years, but then I added the salt and the lemon in a couple of months ago, and I've been noticing like just an increased amount of energy throughout the day. Whether half the time I think like half the stuff that I read and try and practice is like, oh, it's supposed to work, so it's going to.
Yeah.
Just the placebo effect. And sometimes I wonder, which is which. But it doesn't matter if it's working. That's kind of my stance on it. But do you guys have anything when you first get up? Because I have to get up, drink that water. I have to stretch in the morning. There's like, Nini will get so mad at me because there's like a routine that I have that if I don't do it, I'm screwed up.
You're thrown off for the day.
Yeah, like my day's not going to go right.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, not really. I mean,
this is from me growing up, me having a terrible morning experience my whole life. Like I've had to do something.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of just get up and really it's just my biggest thing is just getting to the office.
Yeah.
And once I get to the office, I love to just spend 15, 20, 25 minutes just reading scripture, having some prayer, and that just allows me to slow down my mind and just focus on what I'm reading, what I am learning in that moment. And then from there, I use an app called Trello, and that's my time management, project management app. And I have everything listed that I need to get done that day, and I can prioritize and go through. And then from there, that's how I launch my day. And so, like in my mind, it's if I can just get to the office and get into that moment where I can just sit down and read scripture and pray, that sets my morning off.
Is that app Trello? How do you spell that?
Trello.
LLO.
Yeah, Trello. Cool. And it's free.
Yeah, you told me about it before.
So do you plan your night out like the night before? Do you plan your next day? How do you usually do that?
Yeah, and that's the cool thing. Like with the app, it's on iPhone, it's on all other stuff, so it auto updates. You know, if you change it on one thing, it changes it everywhere.
Yeah.
And so as things come up throughout the day, I just put it into the app, and then I can prioritize it however I go. And then I try to, before I leave work, whatever time that is, I put everything for the next day, or for Monday if it's a Friday. And then that night before I go to sleep, I try to just look it over and just start thinking. I'll use that to fall asleep too sometimes, just thinking about what needs to get done.
That doesn't send you into a panic spiral where you're just like
sometimes
that'd be all I think about.
What I would
do.
Yeah.
I mean, and then eventually my brain just like gives out,
right.
And that's at like 4 a.m.
So you're trying to max out your brain to fall asleep, just like how much stuff
it's
can I
like
pile in there?
Otherwise it just races, and so that's just something that I've struggled with for years, is just a racing mind.
Wow. I drink a bottle of water in the morning as soon as I get up, whether it's lukewarm or it's cold, whatever. I just grab whatever's there, and I usually have that, like a granola or protein bar, just something small and put in my system. And then for me, I have the drive from the house to the gym, and I usually either do it with worship music on, or I do it in silence. And I just like, if people were in the car with me, they'd be like, this dude's nuts. Because I literally am just talking to the Lord about, okay, this is what's going on. This is what I need today. Like, I'm thankful for what you've done. And it's just that pouring out, and it takes me about 10 minutes to get there. And even when I get there, people think that, this is funny, but a lot of times when I'm working out, I'm listening to worship music. Because it's just setting a pace. Seth and I Melhorn were talking about that, how it kind of just sets your mind to ease. You're working your physical body, but you're also spiritually processing, everything. And so it's kind of odd because people are like, oh, you can't work out and like pray and meditate. But when the Bible says you can pray without ceasing, it's a constant state of the heart and of the mind and of the soul. And so for me, a lot of the spiritual, setting the spiritual tone of the day for me that's where it's happening at. And then like this morning, I knew we were having the meeting, went down to the Clay Cup, did my devotions there. Or when I first get in the office, I'll just spend that to say, okay, this is the precedent of my day that I need to get through and study whatever it is it might be to kind of get through. And that's how I really engage myself on that spiritual aspect for the morning.
Like what kind of music, as far as worship music? Is it like heavier stuff, or is it a mixture of everything?
It's kind of a mixture of everything, man. I use I'm a huge Spotify guy. I love Spotify, and so I follow it's called Indie Worship playlist, and it has a ton of just great music. And so whether it's Elevation or Jesus Culture or a lot of things we play down at Community Worship Center, whatever it might be, I'm listening to the words, I'm processing it in my heart and in my spirit. And a lot of times I'm praying for my leaders, I'm praying for the community. And it's, I'm doing a workout, but I'm praying for, God to do something within our friends and our family. And it's just one of those things that worship music really helps set the tone for me.
That's good, man, because I love Tony Robbins, and whenever he does that, he's a documentary on Netflix. You ever watch that?
Yeah, I've watched
Not Your
it.
Guru. I love that documentary. But in that, he talks about his morning, like his priming to get himself prepared, and like his gratefulness in the morning. So I've been doing that a lot. I've been past the water, past the stretching. I go in, do some meditation, praying, and then just the gratification and like, what am I grateful for today? What am I really happy that's going on? And a lot of the times what's wild is it comes back to just the heartbeat. Like I'll put my finger on my pulse and just follow my heartbeat. And that, number one, calms you down. But number two, it gets you in touch with like, man, you're just grateful that this thing's working all the time.
Yeah.
Like just me thinking like, wow, God gave me this heartbeat and it's beating. And I don't have to think about it. I don't have to worry about it. I don't need to do anything for it to beat. I didn't ask for it. It was just given to me. You know what I mean? So it's just kind of there, automatically running when I'm asleep, when I'm awake.
Yeah.
Before I was ever born, like it's like, wow, that's wild. So that in itself is easy to get get me kind of excited. And
Yeah.
then once I go past that, just trying to like align the day, trying to set things up, and just making sure that you're focusing on the right stuff.
Yeah.
How do you know what to focus on, though?
Oh, and I think that's the key question. That's a great question. Because I think all three of us, the one thing about all three of us, I think we're all like, bing, 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 bing.
Yeah.
Like, there's a lot going on
Yeah.
for all of us. I mean, and it's, and we run the same circles, and then we have our own families, and then we have our own, our own work that we're doing. And so that's one of those key questions. Like, once you get past the, setting the bar for yourself, what's the next thing? Like, what am I focusing on next? What's the next point? I love, we talk about podcasts a lot, like who we listen to and who we don't listen to, and all these things. And a gentleman by the name of Michael Hyatt, that leader cast that we were at. And you remember, he talked about leading yourself.
Exactly.
And it was phenomenal. I'll get you the information on that. And but he talked about, you will never lead others well if you don't lead yourself. Mm-hmm. And that hit me so hard.
Me
and it was
too.
like, man, I need to be able to lead myself. And some of them are very pointy questions that were hard to answer. I took those last several weeks after that and said, okay, like, now that I am able to get myself on a point where I'm leading myself, what's next? How do I transition? I think sometimes the hardest thing is transition. And I don't know, I mean, you guys can correct me if I'm wrong. I think sometimes with transition, it's not good or bad transition, but what is the best transition? That is the challenge.
Yeah, because you can transition to one thing to the next thing to the next thing, like transition from doing work to Facebook.
Yeah.
And then get lost in Facebook immediately, right? I've had that many of times where I go, especially in social media, it's hard because a lot of the things that I'm doing are working for clients, and I have to get on social media to check their stuff. But then as soon as I get there, I'm immediately distracted, and I lose like 15 minutes. And it's really
Get
difficult.
sucked in.
Or you're working on something and then you get that notification.
Yeah.
Right.
And that goes in, whether it's just a comment that someone put or, whatever it is. And then that just sends you down a rabbit trail that you get off of whatever you were doing.
Yeah.
But back to Micah's point with like leading yourself first, like that hit me huge because, I spent the rest of that day just pondering, who am I leading? Mm-hmm. And then I actually wrote out like a physical list of people in my life that I'm to be leading, whether it's my wife or my boys, my clients with the work that I do, people in my small group, people, in all of those areas. And it's like, wow, how can I effectively lead them if I'm not taking care of myself?
Yeah.
So that was a huge thing. And then as far as prioritizing that, I mean, it literally is an art to figure out how to get things done. And a lot of people would look at, any kind of manager or leader and just say, oh, all you have to do is make sure everything's going well. It sounds easy, right? It's easy in concept. It's so hard in application.
That can take 10 hours in itself.
Oh,
yes.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And so prioritizing things, being able to put out fires, being able to lead in areas, being able to innovate in other areas. I mean, it's ridiculously hard.
Yeah.
So when you talk about transition, like that's one of the biggest things I find is that I'll get like, after this podcast, right, I might either be spent or I might be overly excited, or like I want to like keep doing this and not go into doing the other stuff that I need to do. So what I've found works a lot, especially if I'm like run down or if my brain kind of like I've been doing too much, I'll literally lay down here in the studio and just meditate for just lay there for like 10-15 minutes.
Yeah.
And it totally recharges my body. I come back up and I'm like, wow, all right, I feel better now.
Yeah.
I can do the next thing and be okay doing it instead of like pushing myself through it with like a head cloud. I don't know if you guys get that a lot. But I'll get like a real like a weight on my head like halfway through the day sometimes, especially when it comes to meetings and stuff like that, when you're constantly engaging and constantly trying to present a good idea or make something work. It can really weigh on you. So that's when I have to. That's my best reset. The best way to like make a transition is to have a pause in between the things where I'm not focusing on anything.
Yeah, and I do that too. I mean, sometimes I'll focus on something like I have YouTube video playlists that they're motivational, they're just inspiring, and I'll just watch those because I'm very big. Like after a good meeting or a good podcast, I get so motivated that I'm like, I need to go out and do something with all this energy.
Yeah.
And so that's where I can like pour things through. And it drives my wife kind of nuts because I will literally, there are days where I sit at my office for an entire afternoon and get one or two things done.
Right.
And I feel drained.
Yeah.
You know, and I'm like, now I'm a day and a half behind. And then the next morning, I get on this like power trip where I can go and I can get literally 2 days worth of work done in 4 hours.
Yeah.
And it's good. It's on point. You know, it's beneficial for my clients. And I can't explain it.
Yeah.
I have no idea why I work that way, but I do. But it's understanding when you're going to be productive and when you're not.
Absolutely.
And it's not good for your clients. It's not good for yourself or for people in your life if you're forcing yourself. I mean, not that you shouldn't force yourself to do some things, but in a creative aspect.
Yeah, if you're forcing yourself just to get the things done that are necessary to move forward for that day or whatever, whether it's payroll or, you know, something like that. But when you're trying to be creative and you're forcing it, it's not going to work.
Yeah.
You're just going to be burnt out.
You know, for me, it's you know, working with teenagers and in the culture of where we are and what, like shifting from one thing to the next. The number one thing is we have to be adaptable. Like I have to be able to adapt on the fly. And that's one thing that we try to teach our leaders. You know, I've really tried to get better at, because you'll be dealing with this situation, then onto this situation, then onto this situation. And it's like, you know, it's one of these things where you have to learn to adapt. And it's not like, you know, I'm not running a business. I'm not running a corporation. I don't, you know, I'm not doing the same thing every day. I actually don't know, like tomorrow, I don't know, like I have an idea of what needs to get done, but tomorrow I could have a curveball thrown at me where it's like, well, I got to adapt the rest of the day to this because of, you know, teenagers, man. They're just, it's in working with students and working with leaders and, you know, just being able to adapt and fly from one thing to the next thing to the next thing, you know, and being able to be adaptable to whatever it is that you know, that you're doing, and be able to shift your mind quick, like to be able to have the clarity of mind to say, okay, I got to shift from this to this. And that's why I've gotten to a point where like I do that morning when I'm alone, when I'm not like everybody's asleep, so I don't have to deal with anything. Like everybody's asleep, and I can be like, all right, this is my charging. This is like, you know, I'm plugging in, I'm charging, I'm getting ready, because I don't really know like what this day is going to hold.
Yeah.
Because I have an idea of like, oh, okay, I have to get sermon prep, I have, you know, game prep, I have all these things I have to prep throughout the week, but I could walk into the office and something gets turned around on a dime, and it's like, okay, well, I got to shift everything now. And one of those things where it's you're never done working.
Right.
You know, you're never really done, and you're never, and we've talked a lot about that before, how, you know, it's a 24/7 thing that, like, you know, even if I'm sleeping or if I'm awake, sometimes you have to adapt, and it gets challenging, but I also like the fun of the challenge is really what motivates, and knowing that everything's going to change every day. I love that. Love it.
And Scott, you've had your own business for a long time, so I'm sure you're much more accustomed to this. Me just being like a year into being out of radio, having this thing that's all my own, I feel like I'm now starting to get into the phase where I'm okay with knowing that the job's never done, because there's always something else. Like I start making a list. I made a list last night, and it was like 5 things long. And then the rest of the night, things kept popping in my head. Now the list is like 15 things long. It's like, oh, I got to do all of these. And they're all like in the same realm, but they're all different parts of different pieces of different things. So going from when you have a job and you have 9 to 5, you clock out at 5 o'clock, and you can leave your stuff at work and come back to it the next day. When you own your own business, and especially when you're passionate and excited about it and you're creative about it, there's always new things that pop in, and you're like, oh, I got to. No, it's not even necessarily that you have to do that thing, but doing that one thing, whatever it might be, will benefit you so much more.
Yeah.
So how have you done that throughout the years?
I mean, it's something that you have to just train yourself. I mean, it's experience.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, and I know that's kind of like the typical cop out for people. It's like you just have to learn it through trial and error, because it's going to be different for everyone.
Yeah.
I mean, it took me all but 6 weeks of starting a business to realize you never clock out mentally.
Yeah.
Like it's always there. You always have things to do. If you're a small business owner and you don't have anything to do, you're doing it wrong. You know, that's the mentality. I mean, because not only do we have our social clients, we have our web clients, we have our video clients, and then I'm trying to grow the business. So not am I only marketing for them, I'm trying to market for myself. And then I got to the point where I'm like, I need to do something else. And so I launched Love Local. You never get done. but you learn to delegate, you learn to prioritize, you learn what needs to get done today to move everything else forward. And it's just something that experience will teach you. And it's something that you unfortunately learn through mistakes. Yeah. I mean, the number of people that I talk to there that say, well, I want to do X, Y, Z, but I'm scared I'm going to make a mistake. I'm going to embarrass myself. I'm going to hurt someone else. I mean, you're going to do it.
Yeah.
You know, and the last thing that I want to do is get past the point where I can do something. You know, I don't want to get later down the road and look back and be like, hey, I missed my window. I really wanted to do something. And so you just need to figure it out, and you need to get people around you that you can know, like, and trust, that share that vision, that share that passion, and allow them to step up and do some of the work.
Yeah.
You know, the one thing about being a leader is realizing that you don't control everything. You need to find other people who can do it better than you.
Yeah. That's the biggest part, right? And that's I think that's the part that can be the most confusing, because you don't think about the fact that, oh, wait, I can't do all this. I want to. You technically could do all of it.
Yeah.
Right.
But if you ever wanted to get anywhere, or get anything done, or have a life, you need to delegate. You need to move past you, from you being in the business to looking down on the business and being able to, like, observe it. And so did you start Love Local partially because, like, as a creative outlet? Was that part of it? Like, because you do a lot of stuff for other clients, and that's where I was, doing stuff for other clients and realizing, like, I have all this creative stuff that I want to do and I'm just not getting to it. Is that where it came from?
Yeah, I mean, so, and this was actually like 4 years ago. We were still out in Pittsburgh, and I was just thinking about this, and I just really felt it pressing on me. And I said, I need to do something more creative. I need to do something that is more culturally relevant. And so it's kind of funny. I got, like, computer paper, and I just started writing out, like, big ideas. And I was working from home at that point, and my wife came home from work, and I'm like, I have to share this with you. I know it's not going to make sense, but this is what I feel like I need to just express. And so I just laid out, like, on our floor, like, all of these different pieces of computer paper. And it's just like, we need to be doing podcasts, we need to be doing video, and it needs to tie into this. And we just backtracked it the whole way up. Mm-hmm. And she looked at me and she goes, how are you going to do this? And I said, I don't know.
Yeah.
But I know I need to. And so,
as long as you can see it, you can do it.
And so it's like, I love to use this phrase, I spoke it into existence. Mm-hmm. You know, I laid it out there, and then I started telling people about it. And then they held me accountable, and they were like, hey, you said you were going to be doing this, that, the other thing.
Yeah.
And so it did come from a creative outlet, because I said, there's so many things, you know, I spent so much time marketing my business from a marketing standpoint and marketing clients, that now I want to do something for the culturally that can change things. It's not business related. And so that's how Love Local was kind of born.
Yeah. Well, that's what I like about that sort of thing, is, like, this sort of thing is business related, because you don't want it to be business related, but in a way it is, because it's kind of like advertising yourself, but not directly saying, hey, I want to work for your company, have me come in and be a consultant or be your marketer or whatever that is. It's just kind of like, well, here's what I'm actually interested in. Here's what my life is like, and lead by example. Number one, right? Because and this is, I think, a situation that we talked about on when I did your podcast for Love Local, was that a lot of people do, like, they get into maybe it's social media marketing or whatever that might be, but they don't actually do it themselves. So, I mean, obviously you can do it, you can work for other people and be able to do it, but when you do it for yourself and you learn how to design it for yourself, maybe some people are different than me, but personally, I can never get as passionate, or I can never get as creative, I guess would be the right word, about other people's stuff as I can with my own.
Yeah.
Because I can do whatever I want.
Yeah.
So somebody else's stuff, I'm always thinking, like, are they going to like that? Is that tailored to them? Is that their thing? But when it's my thing, it's like, well, it's, who's telling me what to do? Nobody. So I'm just going to do what I feel like doing. Yeah. And through that, I get more creativity for everybody else. More ideas start to pop up and start to work their way in.
Yeah. What I love, two things that I'll comment on what Scott was talking about. Number one is the reason why we met is because of Love Local. Yeah. Because when you're passionate about your community and you're passionate about where you're at, you look for other people that are passionate about it. And that was the second thing I want to lead into, because you mentioned passion. And, like, what I love about all of us and our friendship and everything, we are all very passionate about not just, the community, but we're passionate about people, about culture, about life. That's what we're passionate about. Mm-hmm. And, to be able to excel in what you do, you need to surround yourself with people with passion. And I think that sometimes the hardest thing is I know for me, I get frustrated because I am so passionate about what I do. And I have an expectation that everyone, when they're going to hear about what I do, and they're going to be just as passionate.
Yeah, and when you don't get that,
and when I don't, I get aggravated, I get agitated. I'm like, how could you not buy into, like a younger generation, entrepreneurs, creative arts? How can you not believe in this?
Yeah.
And we place our expectancy for passion on other people, believing that they will have that, and they don't. And sometimes that's a challenge, because when you want to do the best that you can do, I mean, like when you go to sleep at night, this burns in you. This is all you think about. This is all that's in your heart. This is all that's there. And I know you attract people of passion when you're like that, no matter what they're passionate about. And that's actually because of the dream that that Scott had with Love Local. I connected with him because I have that same dream of saying like there needs to be something more. There needs to be people that love where they're at and quit using like, I hate where I'm from. I can't wait to get out of the city and blah, blah, all the craziness that people say. That's how we got connected, was because of something of passion that we both shared.
Yeah. Passion's extremely, if you're going to keep the fire going, if you're going to wake up on Monday and be like, oh man, it's Monday. Because that's normally it's like, oh God, it's Monday. I got to do this again. Like I'm going through this whole thing again for another week. But then whenever you are excited, like when I had you two guys come in, I'm like, oh, great. I got a reason to get up. I can recall when I was in radio and it was like, oh man, I got to wake up at 4:30 in the morning and this is horrible every day. Like I got to go to bed at like 9 o'clock at night. But then I remembered like, oh, I get to go in to the studio and I get to make people happy and excited when they're unhappy going. Maybe some of them aren't unhappy going to their jobs, but some of them are very unhappy going to the job they're going to at 6 o'clock in the morning. So I had a chance to lighten their day, and just through that, knowing that I had to be that person automatically kicked me out of that mood. And who was I just talking to? I had Alex Hazard on from Central PA Live last week, and his conversation, it was very cool, and we both agreed on the same thing. You can be having the worst day ever, but if you go into a job that forces you to be on, automatically you forget about all that stuff because you have to. You can't be motivated and happy and like tired and whatever, fearful or whatever at the same time. Like they don't match each other, so you have to drop one and pick up the other one. So this kind of stuff forces you. Like if I was sitting here worrying about stuff while we're talking, I wouldn't be engaged. We wouldn't be having a good conversation. It'd be terrible. So that just forcing yourself out of it, like a force of change, is big.
Yeah, and I think the big thing is again having that network of people, and I stress this all the time. You need to have people around you that actually care what is going on in your life.
Absolutely.
I mean, having people that share that passion, even if in what we've found, like in our small group, we have 5 families that get together regularly. We're all in the same, area of life. We all have young kids and everything like that. And none of them really share maybe what my passion is for film or, video or social media. But they care about me, and I care about them. And so we can get together, we can text, we can, whatever. And they're invested in what I'm doing because it's me, and me and them. And so that's so important to be able to have those people in your life that you can confide in, that you can trust, that you can go to with your struggles, with your worries, with your concerns, but also then to share your celebrations with. And so having those people around you is just so important. But those are relationships that take time to build.
Absolutely. So where did you meet all those people? Was that through church, or how did that group come together?
They're all through our church over at Grace. And but I mean, they're through there. But then I have you guys, and I have other people that I've met through work and clients of mine. I mean, literally, I can say the majority of my clients are my friends. I mean, we are able to just sit down, we talk about business, and then we end up going down, the road of just life.
Yeah.
And so people always ask me, like, well, how do you define your company? Like, are you a media company? Are you a marketing company? And I'm like, I'm in the business of helping people do what they want to do with their lives. If they want to build a business, that's what I'm going to help them do within the realms that I understand, which is digital media. And so that's what my goal is. I'm in the business of people, and I'm sure that both of you would say that's pretty much where you are too.
Oh yeah. Well, that's how we met. I mean,
Yeah.
if you remember, like Rob and I, that's how we met because of Sarah Vogel down at the Clay Cup. She introduced us because she was like, "Oh, this guy named Rob Z, who you might know," and I was like, "Yeah, I used to listen to him on the radio. He wants to connect with the younger generation. He wants to work with students." She's like, "I'm going to connect you," and that was it. And then we met, and not only did we share the same passion, but we've become very close friends over the last almost year and a half.
Yeah.
Because of that. Exactly what you're talking about.
Well, it's crazy, man, because you're talking about like all this group of friends that you have, that all your families are together. You met them at church, right? And when I first met you, which was a little over a year ago,
Yeah.
and I had not been going to church for years, and it just wasn't something that I felt. I always heard like, you meet such people, you get such close bonds, and I always thought, hey, but it's all like, it's all fake and
It's artificial.
It's not real friendships, that sort of thing. And then when I started going to CWC, I met Micah, met Pastor Keith, and everybody else that I've met through that. I'm like, wow, this is what everybody's always talking about that I didn't recognize as a real thing. Mm-hmm. And it's so real. It's so unbelievable because you're meeting people who are, number one, who are just not saying, take out the words motivated, take out the words passionate, take out all the like life coach words or whatever. It's just people who are happy to be alive and happy to be where they're at.
Yeah.
Like not like constantly stressing about, I got to get here. It's like waking up and just being happy that you got your all your basic needs met. Your kids are good.
Yeah.
Your relationships are good, that sort of thing. And your relationship with God is good. Like
Absolutely.
that you're connected in.
Yeah.
And that's just being able to sit down with you guys like a year ago or, obviously 2 years ago. I was not in the same position in any way, shape, or form. Mm-hmm. So the more people I realize that I get around me, being at Catalyst Space, like the more people I get around me that are excited just about life and like who just have a natural vigor about them, that just takes on you as well. It's like you're going to be like your 5 closest friends, like your 5 closest confidants. That's going to be your life.
Absolutely.
So there's this thing that I wanted to ask you guys, and I guess we can kind of talk about this to wrap this up. But anybody who's listening or watching right now, I came across this, and I used it because it really made me make sure I was going in the right direction. And as I piece it together, I'm like, wow, I am on the right path. So it's 4 questions. It's like a 4-pillar kind of thing. So the first question is, what have I done for the last 10 years, like either in business or personal life, right? What is one of the main things you've been a part of for the last decade? What do strangers compliment you on? What do you love talking about? Like say on like a Saturday night, or if you had to choose like to sit down with people and talk about something, what would that be? And what did you want to do when you were 14 years old? If you can figure out those 4 things and combine them, that's like your mission path, right?
Yeah.
So I did it. And what have I been doing for the last 10 years? I'm just going to go first as an example, not to put myself first or anything, but I've already gone through this I spent like an hour on it. But what have I done for the last 10 years? Obviously radio, talking, broadcasting, entertainment, those sorts of things. What the strangers compliment me on would be like relatability, my broadcasting ability, being easygoing. Nene always says I'm like a couch, so I wrote that in there. Like, she said very easy to get to hang out with or know, right? Like, she describes me like a couch, which could be soft and plushy.
Well, that's what I was thinking.
Yeah, I like that.
Comfortable to lay on, maybe.
Yeah.
What do I love talking about? This stuff, like life, passions. I get into weird stuff sometimes. I get deep sometimes. I love talking about that sort of stuff. But wrestling, music, talking about just new things, new ideas, and also humor and comedy. And what did I want to do when I was 14? So when I was 14, I wanted to be a pro wrestler, number one.
Oh, yeah.
Didn't quite get there.
Yeah.
But now my buddy Dave and I have a podcast about wrestling, so that kind of played it. And this podcast, we've had a wrestling
Yeah, we had a
conversation.
wrestling one. Yeah, we did.
So a radio DJ was number 2, so obviously that one was good. And then just to be, like, recall being like 14 and wanting to be like strong-willed, being respected by my peers and admired, that sort of thing. So I took those 4 things and I'm like, oh, and that. I did this like 2 months ago, and over those past 2 months, I've noticed that things have come together a lot more just from putting those together. So would you guys want to answer any of those 4 questions?
Do you want to answer all 4, or do you want to go like we answer one?
Let's go one at a time.
One at a time.
Yeah,
That's what I'm thinking the same thing because I'm sorry. What's the question again?
Yeah, I know. I apologize. It's through too much at once. So,
no, that's good.
So what have you been doing for the past 10 years would be the first one.
Go ahead.
It's been so. I'm 29. So last 10 years, I've been in business 10 years. Yeah, I started visual media whenever I was 18, 19 years old. Yeah, so I've been an entrepreneur for 10 years now. That's the big thing. A lot's happened in 10 years though. So like I'm at that point in my life where things just happen.
Yeah.
You know.
You're not, whether they want them to or not. They're
yeah,
just
it's like you now are not kicked out, but you move out.
Yeah.
And I got married, 2 kids, we moved, we bought a house. It's been a weird 10 years.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Well, I mean,
that's what I've been working in for the last 10 years.
No, that's that. Well, I think about it too, because 2009 I would have graduated college, so it's almost 10. It'll be almost 10 years that I graduated school, and I got married to Bethany, and at the time I was, we were in Virginia. I was in Kentucky before that. My school was up in north of Boston, so it was like there was a sporadic moves, but then. I would say, getting married and then moving to Altoona, Central PA. I mean, I'm going to go on 8 years being like where we birthed Refuge. It started just as a youth group, and it had a great foundation of people that, had this group of kids that they were going out and getting from the community, and they were like, hey, we need someone to do this and lead this. And so that door opened up. But I mean, really, in essence, just loving my wife and, our dog Timber and having our home. Like you said, so many things changed. Yeah. But the majority of the last 10 years, it's been totally given to impacting teenagers and students. And it's been a wild ride, and always, 10 years is a good span, but I mean, I wouldn't take anything back at all, because, even the hard times, you learn to get to it, you got to get through it. And I think that was one of the biggest things for us. So it's been wild.
So what do strangers compliment you on? That might be a weird one to answer too. Like it was easy for me by myself to answer that.
Yeah.
For the first time in the microphone, I apologize.
I mean, I don't know. Do you mean strangers like?
What I think of is like when somebody you get a compliment from someone. What is it normally regarding? Like what pops into your head? I guess.
So I would probably say the most common thing for me is just. You kind of said it, but like relatability, like being able to take something from someone and then be able to say, I'm glad that I had a chance to talk to you about this. And maybe empathy is a better word for that. And motivated. I mean, and that's a tough thing. I mean, we talked about how difficult it is to stay motivated, but I think by going through some of the things that we've talked about, people will notice that. I mean, because I think deep down, everyone wants to be motivated. Everyone wants to be productive. But so many people just fall into that trap of saying, I can't do it, or it's too much work. And so when you're someone out there and you're doing things, people are going to take notice of that, and they're going to respect that.
Yeah. Well, let me kind of reverse it before we get to me, because I was gonna say, like, Scott, if I were to answer that for you, like if someone asked me what was the first thing that you picked up, I would definitely say just so relatable and laid back. I mean, when we just first met, we talked for hours, and it was about everything. Yeah. I mean, family, life, faith, and so I would definitely say, like, if I were to answer that for you, it would definitely be the relatability of just being seasoned in. And like being wise in what you do and things like that. And, that's what I picked up on when I first met Scott. Rob, when I first met you, it was passion, man. Like just passionate about community, passionate about change, passionate about people. Being able to say like, yeah, that definitely is what it is that, and it's all people. It's not just a certain demographic for Rob. It was definitely something where it was like, whoa, this dude is like, he really loves the community and loves the people. And being in the community, and like we hear it all the time, people hating this community and hating this place, and like Rob's like, no, we're going to change. Like we all
that
have
was
used.
Me. That was my thought process for a long time. I got to get out of here.
And then we talked, and you're like,
flipped it.
In something, changing the conversation was something that we talked, a little bit about. And so I don't know, as like my first impression of you guys, that's right off the bat what I had. And getting to know. And no, what did you think with Rob when you first?
First thing I noticed about Rob was his ability to connect people. Being able to say, hey, you do this and you do this. I see how those two things work together.
You need a network.
Yeah. That was the first thing I noticed about him. And then just your experience in broadcasting and being able to see the change. And we kind of talked about that maybe the first time we met, or first time I was on your podcast, it's, we talked about how you transitioned out of radio, but you're still doing radio. You're just doing it a different way, and you saw that before a lot of other people did. And that's one of the things that I just greatly respect about you is not only seeing things, but then having the vision to figure out how it works. Because a lot of people will say, hey, this is what we need to do. I'm going to let someone else figure it out. You saw it and you were able to do it. And Micah, yours was definitely passion. Your love for investing in people. I just find that awesome.
Yeah, and if I had to go with both of you guys, I think the things that stuck out to me were the dedication and the attention to detail in what you do. Like with you with video, like the amount of years you put in being an entrepreneur, the amount of years that you put in was, when you told me you had been in business for so long, I'm like, really? That, like, you're not even 30 yet and you've been doing it for that long? Like, not many people can say that and successfully say that.
Yeah,
like
absolutely.
Most business startups like last, 2 years maybe or something like that.
2 to 3 years.
And that's it. So you started at 19. And you made it work. Like, that's pretty awesome. And Mike, I mean, you just working with kids and your passion for that and just staying on track. When I first met you, I was like, there's no way he does all that. There's no way he commands so much. Teenagers, like, scare me. Because I still recognize myself. I still look at myself as a teenager, and I know what it felt like to be one. And I wasn't, like, the popular kid or anything like that. So I'm still in, like, this... whenever I go into a group of teenagers, I still feel like I'm 14, and I don't fit in or something like that. And to kick that out of my brain's hard. So when I watch you do what you do, I was like, wow, he's not above them, he's with them, and he's doing, and by being with them, he's doing so much for them. That's what I kind of was like. That's powerful.
Yeah, probably the big. I get two compliments that are usually along those lines. When people for like they're like, you really do this. Like, you really do this. You just don't say that you do it. Like, you do this. And, and a lot of it is, Ryan Alden, and our director of operations, like, this would not be where it is today without him and without all of our volunteers that are just amazing. But for them to, like, you really do care. Like, you do invest and you do this. And then usually the other one's like, are you mentally okay? Like, are you all right? Like, you work with teenagers all the time. Like, one campus wasn't enough. You had to do 3 campuses and a nonprofit. Like, is your head okay? And it's just like...
And you're happy.
Yeah, and I'm happy. Yeah, absolutely. So...
Well, that's what I always thought whenever I met you. I was like, youth pastor, that sounds like a fake job. Sounds like I get to go play basketball with kids.
Yeah, right?
I call it a job.
Well, we joke all the time, man, and you know this because you've been around church culture. Like, there is definitely, and this is for all my youth pastors that are listening and that are watching. Like, we get a bad rap sometimes, but we've done it to ourselves because there are some straight out, flat out lazy youth pastors that hide, because it's very easy to hide in youth ministry, like extremely easy to hide and just do your thing, get your paycheck, throw a little pizza party here and there. But it's a whole nother world when you're passionately investing constantly and you're working hard and you're doing that. But we get this rap where we're like, oh, all we do is party. All we do is, and like, that's a joke around our office.
It looks like it's a bunch of fun.
Yeah. And people are like, all they see is, they see on social media, the pool party, the going to Kennywood, going to Hershey Park. They see all these things, but what they don't see is all of the crazy behind the scenes chaotic stuff that goes on in all of these students' lives that we're constantly, being involved in. But it's so funny because so many people like think that right off the bat. They're like, oh, so you get paid to have fun.
Yeah.
And it's like, what?
And I would just piggyback off that with you and with Brian Curdy, our youth pastor. The one thing that I've learned, I can't even remember how long we've known each other, but for however long that's been, it's the intentionality, and you both, Brian and yourself, do a great job at this. And it's, yes, you see the pizza parties, you see the canoe trips, you see all this stuff going on, but what you don't see, which is the most important thing that I would say, is how every piece that you guys put into practice is intentional. It's that building of relationship, and you see the building, but you don't see the effect on the kid. And the one thing that I would say about you again is your follow up. I mean, I send Micah a text, or we meet and we talk about something. He is great at following up, and I'm pretty new to the arena here, but I mean, if he's following up with me that way, I mean, I would just say that the kids that you're working with just are in good hands.
Yeah, the attention to detail is definitely there.
Yeah.
I've noticed that from a lot of people in church, like you.
Yeah.
Nate Varilla's amazing with that.
Yeah.
Pastor Keith's amazing with that. Troy's amazing with
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
From transformation, it's
Well, because
very
in
interesting.
church culture, I'm going to say this because I've been involved my whole life in this. Normally, it sucks. Normally, it's really hard to, like, you send an email, you send a text, like, for pastors to get back to you, because it's always like, oh, I was busy. Like, everyone is busy.
Right.
Everyone, like, your busy is no more important than my busy. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? And so, but
well, speak for yourself.
Yeah.
Busy's pretty important.
I got to lay on the floor and meditate for 10 minutes. Leave me alone. But within church culture, it's always been very it hasn't been very good, and so we're very intentional with being at CWC, New Life, and being with Transformation and Pastor Jim and Pastor Wayne and everything. We're very, very cognitive of that, where like we will follow up and we will return phone calls, all that. Okay, next question, because we diverted. That was like a huge diversion. That
Question
was my
3:
fault.
what do you like if it was a Saturday night, or you got to pick a topic that you wanted to talk about with friends? What would you be talking about?
Man, that's another loaded one.
That is a loaded one. We could go a lot of places.
What I would enjoy talking, like selfishly?
Selfishly, yeah. If you selfishly could talk about whatever you wanted to talk about, what would it be?
Oh my.
Like for me, it might come down to like aliens or something. I don't know. It always depends on something.
Yeah,
weird.
I mean,
what mood I'm in.
For me, this is what I get accused of most of the time, is it comes back to two things. It comes down to culture and what's going on in culture, and then Jesus.
Yeah.
I love talking about scripture and theology, and that usually transgresses into culture,
yeah,
like what's going
absolutely.
on, and then contrasting the two and how they mesh. That's what I love talking about. I feel like I talk about work enough at work. So on Saturday nights, that's kind of what I go to. But I mean, that is your work. So
yeah. Well,
I mean, I guess that is our work.
Yeah,
but
but along the same lines, absolutely, I'm right there with you. Because I'm engaging in culture, but Jesus is the center. But like that Micah part of me, like that, like we're gonna talk wrestling,
Yeah.
or we're gonna talk about like food or pizza or donut. Like
I could go on food.
yeah,
too.
like we could go on food and donut, but like. Usually, if we're going to sit down, like I love wrestling, and I love that whole culture. I've always been involved. The sci-fi world, the aliens, and like the whole nerd stuff. Like I'm all about that. Like Star Wars, all of that stuff. Like I could talk for hours on any of those things. And so that's usually like Saturday night. We're going to talk about Jesus and Darth Vader. Like that's where we're going to go with. So we'll shift between those things very easily while we're eating donuts or pizza. Like that's pretty much how it's going to go.
Yeah, I have to be eating.
Yes.
Like
okay.
I'm an ultimate snacker.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like that could be all 3 meals and just eat for 20 hours a day and just snack all day long.
You should
I'd be
start
good with
lifting
that.
weights. That's like the weightlifter's mentality. Is eat.
Well, I'd have to
That's
get up
it.
at 4:30. I mean,
Well, when
that's
you
just-
move down here, we could do it. Like I'll come knock on your door.
Hey,
and let's all-
I would be good with that.
So, what did you want to do whenever you were 14 years old? I love this question because it's hilarious to think like when I was 14, I wanted to be, I guess it was like Hulk Hogan at that point in time, or maybe like Bret the Hitman Hart.
Yeah.
and
So what
McFoley.
grade
or
would that be? 14.
8th grade,
Eighth
7th or
grade.
8th grade, or 9th maybe.
I mean, I was still pretty big in basketball, so I probably wanted to be an NBA player.
Oh, okay. So for you, it wasn't anything doing with visual. It wasn't doing with video. It wasn't doing
No,
with.
I didn't get the, we'll call it creative spark until my junior year in high school.
Wow.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I
in
was
the 14 could be like 18. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like,
I mean,
that
so-
age is a
Yeah.
floating age.
Yeah, so I would say I was very big into sports. I've always had that entrepreneurial, like, I always wanted to own a business, but I never knew what kind of business I wanted to own. It wasn't until I was 17 or 18, whenever I started getting into video, that it was like, it started out as a hobby, and then it was like, wait, there's an actual career associated with making videos. And then it's like, that's what I want to do.
Yeah.
So that's kind of where that came from.
Man.
Yeah.
So you kept it going to.
Yeah, I just kept it going.
It's nice if you keep that thing and.
Yeah, this
You
is
can
all
come
an
back to it.
experiment. I'm
Right.
still learning how to do video, and so I always feel like I'm a student, and it's just like, it's amazing. I see it as, it's amazing that people pay me so that I can learn how to make good videos.
Yeah.
Yeah. Plus, it's ever changing. Right.
Right,
It's
which
evolving
like
all the time.
so,
Yeah.
everything's so new. at
And
all
another
times.
thing that I would geek out on is like video gear. Like I could run down through every camera and like every mixer and mic, and I could talk about that for a long time too.
Wow. Man, that's like because I have a hard time remembering a lot of like being. A
Isn't
kid,
it
you know?
weird?
Like it's one of those
That's,
things
that's
where
funny.
it's
I'm like, I can still remember when
no, like
can't.
I do remember this. I remember in 8th grade we had this like, what would you be doing in like 20 years?
Mm-hmm.
And I think it was something along the lines of like acting or something like something entertainment. I don't remember exactly what it was, but it was an entertainment type thing, and I just remember that like vaguely remember that. But if we transition between like 18, at one point, I remember sitting with my mom at in Bethel Park, sitting out at the table. I actually wanted to go into the police force, and I wanted to work for the FBI. I always thought that would be such a great job to be able to do and be able to just be a protector of people. I've always loved that, and I admire. I mean, still to this day, if it wasn't in ministry, I probably would have gone that route where I respect that so much that someone gives their life to protect other people. And so in my mind, that's what I wanted to do. And I always like Cops. I think I have seen every episode of Cops, probably inside and out. Like even from a young age when it was on Fox, and they'd have like two hours like back to back. Watch all of them on Saturday nights all the time. But that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to be, I wanted to be in the police force and be a police officer, transition to work for the FBI after that.
Wow, that's crazy.
That's awesome.
And then end up on like CSI or something like that.
Yeah, something crazy
that's
like
the
that.
combination of the two, the FBI job and becoming an actor.
Yeah. Well, there you go. But that was my passion. That's what I wanted to do. It was like something that I remember my mom and I just going through the application of everything, and it was crazy.
I always thought you were Seth Rollins. I thought you were going to be a wrestler. Off the bat.
I got a lot more time at the gym I need to invest if I'm going to be like Seth Rollins. I mean, he definitely is my favorite, but man, there's a lot of work you got to put in for that.
But isn't that I find that one crazy because you think back to what you wanted to be when you were 14, and like when you were a kid and you didn't have any roles laid down.
Yeah, man.
Like what am I going to do with the rest of my life? And it's so impossible to think of at that age. But the point of that thing is, because whenever I did that, and you bring those four together, the idea is if you sit down, like work on those four, and then bring the ideas all together, then that's like your true passion job.
Yeah.
Like that'd be the perfect mixture of a career and a passion mixed into one.
Yeah. And the weird thing is I still will have questions like, what do I want to be when I grow up? Mm-hmm. Like, I still struggle with that, and it's like, wait, Scott, you're doing things already, and it's like,
and I am growing,
I am a grown up. Like, what am I doing? But
I'm a grown man.
Yeah,
I'm doing this. Man.
It's like, man, is this? And this might be bad to say, but it's like, I see my role as helping people, but the areas that I'm doing that might change.
Yeah,
and I think that's another reason why Love Local, I think, came to be. It's because I can help my clients through visual element media, but to help other people, I need another outlet. So there may be additional transitions coming in my life that I just don't know about yet, or that are in the midst of being worked out. But the main thing is, I don't think that will ever change, is I'm going to be helping people.
Absolutely.
I'm going to be investing in people.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Cool. I like it. Well, guys, thank you very much. If there's anything else you want to throw in before we wrap this up, please do. I don't know if you have anything that you.
I thought it was great.
Yeah, I'm spent.
Yeah, man.
We're gonna go take a nap.
He's gonna go take a nap.
I'm gonna lay on the floor over here. If anybody ever walk in here, it'd be hilarious.
That would be
Like,
crazy.
All
like,
the lights are off, and I'm just laying on the floor.
Especially if you fell asleep.
Yeah, is Rob okay? Like,
Yeah.
I have done that a couple times. Falling asleep.
Like falling asleep on the floor. Yeah,
That was
walking
nice.
in.
So I guess if people want to find you guys, social media wise, give them some handles where they can go. I'm not going to say them because I'll screw them up.
Yeah, you can follow Love Local. Just search Love Local PA. That's our handle on all of our social media, or lovelocalpa.com.
And then for us, it's Refuge Youth Network, and you just got to search that, and it'll pop up. I mean, that is definitely that's our handle on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, everything, and you could follow us on there.
Thank you very much, gentlemen. Once again, you've been on several times. It's awesome to get us all three in the studio. We got to do it again sometime.
Yeah,
this was good.
Yeah, it was great.
This was good.
That'd be awesome.
All right. You know what, fellas? I say we all just get out of here and head down to the Clay Cup because I want to continue this conversation, have some coffee, have some tea, and have some creativity. And I don't think we even mentioned during this podcast, guys, that we were drinking coffee this whole time. That was courtesy of the Clay Cup. So we're just tying sponsors in to the show. That's how we roll here on Rob Z Radio. Thank you, Zebras, for listening. Make sure you check out the Clay Cup if you're in the Altoona, Pennsylvania area at the Clay Cup on Facebook and Instagram. Sarah Vogel's amazing at what she's done. What she does there. She's been on the podcast many times, And you can check her out on social media if you've never been to find out how amazing she is at what she does. Shout out to Juice. That's Joos, Juice, 517 Allegheny Street in Hollidaysburg. Facebook and Instagram at The Juice Bar. Cold pressed juice and smoothies, smoothie bowls, bone broth, hot soups, raw vegan baked goods, tons of stuff. You don't need to be a vegan to go there and enjoy what she's got. It'll turn your body around. It'll turn your health around, turn your insides out. Is that good? That place will turn your insides out. That doesn't sound good, but I meant it in a really good way. Like, she'll make you super healthy with the foods and the drinks and the things she has to serve you. Plus, she's a wealth of information when it comes to nutrition. And also to Trade Secrets, 1223 13th Avenue in Altoona. Secrets and Trade on Facebook. Trade Secrets _skincare on Instagram. They create all their products in-house: body lotions, whipped body butters, lip balms, all-natural deodorants, bath bombs. Kids love bath bombs. My son goes nuts. She makes incredible Hulk bath bombs. You drop that bad boy in the tub, it's like Hulk peed all over your tub. It's just green everywhere. Was that a good advertisement? Damn, I don't know. We're going with it, though. Trade Secrets. I love what Steph and her husband, Andy, do. So check them out. And thank you, Zebras, for checking out what I do. I'll talk to everybody next time. Nothing but love and peace. Peace.
That's brutal.